I'm Ryan O'Doud, and you're listening to Ryan's Audiobooks on the Issues Magazine YouTube channel. Tonight, we conclude The Psychic Bible, the apocryphal scriptures of Genesis P-Orridge, and the third mind of the Temple of Psychic Youth. We are reading the Part D of Addenda to the second edition of the Psychic Bible. Date, March 13th, 1995. From Genesis P-Orridge to John Butolph. E was really glad to receive your package. E always enjoy your stuff. Enclosed are a few things in return, all of which you are free to rifle for anything you wish to reprint or adjust to your own strategic ends. E read your little essay. E prefers an individual to reply to all correspondence as a stream of consciousness, not first considering my best interest or how what E say might be reused to attack or ridicule me. Just me as a friend replying to a friend, one-on-one. No thoughts to a pseudo-historical context or an over-aggrandized sense of import. Re our actions in time. We are all ultimately tiny specks of image in a mirror of omnipresent fluidic matter, and it really doesn't matter if I'm wrong or right, where E belong, E am right where E belong. So, E am reading your red sheet. It's funny because Brother Orkin at Esoterra has been asking me about you. E had only positive and praising things to say. E told him you were an example of what E personally subjectively thought TOPY was meant to represent. No qualms, no reservations or qualifications on my part, just you. E believe in you, still do. E don't need to be liked to know what E like. E think you'll believe me, but if you don't, phone him for what it's worth. Do we feel sad? Yes. Not a lot, but enough. Let me attempt to explain, and please remember, E am speaking to you, and you know, really, that this was what TOPY was for. You don't recall any of us endorsing attacking our friends or losing a sense of compassion. E thought we were intending to assist and support each other, love each other, and protect each other as an extended family. Over the years, and E was, let's be honest, heavily committed to TOPY from 1980, when E conceived of it more precisely. Though with Monty, E discussed it in the 70s. E have had a stream of individuals who espoused a belief in a TOPY way of life, living pretty much free in my house in Hackney for nearly 10 years, no questions asked, 3 at a time living in my house in Brighton, who responded by stealing 3 anti-dolphin area money, using our private credit to their own ends, etc., etc. We had TOPY global meetings at our house. PTV actually donated 80% or more of their earnings to subsidize TOPY for 10 years, asking for no recompense. You suspect that adds up to literally £100,000 of income given away to our belief in the idea. Almost every year, the access points and stations agreed to promised to donate back 23% of any net profit they earned via PTV-related sales. Not one of them actually ever handed over a penny. E designed the Psychic Cross in 1979 in Hackney in preparation for the next project, the post-TG project E had decided was necessary next in my life's works in my belief development. It was first used by myself and Psychic TV on our commercial releases. In tandem with those, E wrote the majority of and edited the rest of the Grey Book, an unusual item for a supposed music group. But that was the point, to see where we could go to make dreams real. It is, however, important to recall and accept a fact. The Psychic Cross was quite deliberately and appropriately exploited and attached to my artistic and musical creations first, and the interrelated ideological projects and strategies, philosophies, and experiments that were linked with them. Most notably, TOPY, just about every PTV release had Psychic Crosses on it. T-shirts too, etc., etc. In a step unusual for any group, we extended our project into unheard of arenas, an interactive occult exploration, TOPY as E chose to call it. No one knows when they begin in our project where it might lead, or how it might be absorbed by the popular culture of its day. We speculate, we observe, we conclude, but E am sure you recall and understood all culture is dispensable and not sacred, in the sense of becoming a dogma, bureaucracy, a pathetic mirror of that which was its enemy. In one aspect, religion, bylaws, adherences to a book. You think that vibrant, dedicated, and marvelous collaboration that it took us all by surprise, inspired and overwhelmed us with its power and magic. But recall, PTV was still working, still using the cross as the trademark of its commercial works. Except it became to our tribe more than that. It became a symbol of our attitude, our refusal of certain types of control, our innate trust, our sexual explorations, our revitalization of anarchy and magic. It took us by surprise. It became sacred in a more real sense, a symbol of unity of purpose and clarity and purity of intent. It did not represent attacking one's friends. It did not represent incorporation as a non-profit religion. It did not represent the callous disregard for a family such as my own, who lost everything by representing the ideal of TOPY, by refusing to inform on others to ease our burden. One thing you thought was so sad and strange was that you did not mention that our house was illegally raided by Scotland Yard, that we braved losing our children too to protect the network, that to this day we have chosen not to give the names of any individuals involved in the early days of TOPY, and as a result lost 2 houses, an archive, a marriage, nearly our children. Why? To protect you directly and implicitly, whether you like to believe it or not. You do not consider that, as he often used to say, it's not a game. It's a war, that we were the fall guys for you all. It was not easy. It was not easy. It is not easy. We are still living in exile. We still live in fear for arrest and deportation. We cannot get a regular job. We exist on charity more often than not. Our children are permanently damaged by events, and why? Because we believe in what the cross stands for, its integrity. You think a lot of you forget what happened. You don't think you can imagine how it was. And what does TOPY do? Does it honor us, protect us, even write and ask how we are? If we are safe, say thanks for all you did? No. E get death threats. E get slanderous postcards. E get told E am in it for the money, for your information. This is not a time of clever letters or smart essays. My children still risk being taken into care. Paula has had a nervous breakdown through the stress. E expect to be homeless next month because E cannot pay rent on a house, which means Caress and Jeunesse are at risk. We have no money, yet we let people live free in our Brayton house until it was repossessed. We have people here now living free who were homeless. Do you mention how much we have given for what we believe TOPYs? No, of course not. Why didn't you mention all this? Does it intrude on people's self-esteem? You write your essay, but you assume that hearsay is correct. Let me set the record straight. 1. You have no attorneys except one who works free to try and get me a record deal. To date he has not. 2. No lawyers have written to TOPY or PWOG. You challenge them to produce such a letter. 3. You personally asked PWOG to either cease and desist from using the Psychic Cross on their commercial products, or say in small letters on the back, thanks in GPO for use of the cross, preferably followed by an explanation of what it represents as an ideal. 4. E wrote to Topinada and said he felt that they were misrepresenting what TOPY had been. They are all bylaws, threats, angers, and OTO dogma. E simply asked that they call themselves something else and not use the cross. They responded with death threats and anger. E then asked more firmly, all you want is that they do not bastardize and insult all our good work with their self-aggrandizing and hypocritically false pretense to be TOPY. Carl in Sweden, Petra in Germany, Tom in Denver, and others understand my point. PWOG are, whether they can face it or not, exploiting the cross for monetary gain. TOPY and ADA are exploiting it to legitimize their corrupt and dogmatic farce. E feel fully justified in trying to protect the cross from this misuse. And sorry if you don't like it, but ye have the right, for what it's worth, to try and do that. Nobody else has had the courage to cry wolf over the misuse for private aggrandizement. Well, ye do. Not a single individual in TOPY sent even a letter of support or sympathy to myself or my family when we were singled out for destruction as representatives of TOPY. Not a single penny was donated by the TOPY network. Not a leaflet printed to defend us as individuals, but wow, you've all found the time and money to attack us, to berate us, to hurt us, and to suggest that we have no rights to our own concepts, ideals, or designs. The law has never served me. E, too, cannot afford it. What kind of dreams are you in? Do you think E sit here with secret money? E have singled out 2 cases of what E consider hypocrisy and damaging exploitation of what is the sacred symbol of our tribe. E have firmly asked them to cease demeaning that which they have not created or honored. E have no lawyer, no money, but E believes so strongly in the cross that E fight for it anyway. You can all choose to ignore my efforts, my dedication, my suffering. It's only what E might expect. But it's sad that it's so easy for you to write at length about my attempts to protect our heritage, yet not mention our sacrifice, Or is it all conveniently separable and in little boxes that facilitate everyone else's self-esteem? You really love you, even now. You think you wrote with sincerity, and funnily enough, we agree about the cross. It should be protected. But you have to understand, you have always used it as my artistic trademark too, which is my right. Asking two specific groups to stop trading on the cross is not asking the whole world to stop using it magically. Ye have not used the forces of law and order. Ye have asked. Why do you think KK Records want to carry on using the cross on covers of PWOG? It sells their records. That's the only reason. Why? Because a lot of people think it's a sub-project on PTV. It's a marketing ploy and legitimization. If you deny that, you are working hard at denial. My latest series of releases is the Electric newspaper. Each is 74 minutes long. Everything on each is free to sample, even long sections. This series will also be on the www. am giving away my archive of sound. Believe in sampling. Continue to believe in it. But think that you are misreading the situation. Topy nada are liars and are not living what you and believe TOPY to be in any sense. Oh, do you know what, John? Fuck it. Why should he defend using my own work? Why should he care about all this? Did they care for my children? Do they do as much as we do? Love your work. Think you've been unfair. Thinks the way have been treated stinks. Think there are so many self-induced leaps of credibility in your logics. Bottom line, have to try to keep Caress and Jeunesse safe. Why did you take the easy path and hurt me, insult me, make it the norm to attack and undermine me? So easy, so unfair. Try living through what happened to us one day. Try surviving with the government and police department trying to destroy you. Try imagining how it feels to see your essay in print when you're about to lose your kids because you're homeless. Try equating that with the fact that PWOG are putting money in their pockets as you lose your kids using your symbol. Of course we want the cross to be in books, but if have to choose between PWOG or Caress and Jeunesse, oh fuck you, you really don't get it, do you? Really wish you did know more. Date, September 29th, 1995. From Genesis P-Orridge to TOPY, subject without prejudice. I have registered a trademark in the following details. 1. Trademark registered in Part A of the register under number 1334546 as of the date of 6/2/1988 in Class 16, Schedule 4 in the name of Genesis P-Orridge. 2. Trademark registered in Part A of the registered under 1334545 as of the date 6/2/1988 in Class 9, Schedule 4 in the name of Genesis P-Orridge. 3. Trademark registered in Part A of the register under 1379316 as of the date of 23/3/1989 in Class 14 in the name of Genesis P-Orridge. The classes are as followed in terms of products covered. Class 16, printed matter, newspapers, periodicals, books, journals, photographs, postcards, posters, and all included in Class 16. Class 9, records, tapes, compact discs, videos, all included in Class 9. Class 14, goods in precious metals are coated therewith, except cutlery, forks, and spoons, jewelry, goods in precious stones, all included in Class 14. As you know, I've been living in the USA under difficult and complicated circumstances. However, I now write to you after learning of your blatantly illegal activities to insist firmly that you immediately cease and desist from using both my intellectual copyright name, the Temple of Psychic Youth, and my internationally registered trademark, commonly known as the Psychic Cross. Further, that you immediately cease and desist manufacturing and distributing pamphlets, books, newspapers, tapes, videos, and any and all other material relating to the now defunct Project TOPY. Your organization, whilst on one hand distancing itself from me and minimizing my founding role in all you espouse, continues quite hypocritically to exploit and trade off my work, writings, concepts, structures, jargon, and trademark. If you really feel so antagonistic towards me and my work, and if you are truly convinced that you are gifted and valuable in your own rights, then surely you would desire to build your own unique group with its own radically different names, symbols, terms, texts, and so on. It's clear that while you are opportunistically milking my works while noisily denying it, you have no legal right to my works, TOPY works, or the use of my intellectual copyright, the title TOPY, nor to use my trademark of the Psychic Cross, a trademark that I still employ in any and all my public works. I am sending this letter to officially and legally demand that you cease and desist forthwith from all of the intellectually copyrighted name, the Temple of Psychic Youth, from all use of my personal, internationally registered trademark, the Psychic Cross. It is registered in Europe, a process that was expensive and time-consuming, and there is reciprocity with the USA, and all other unauthorized exploitation of my ideas, texts, structures, and theories, all of which are copyrighted over a period of 15 years. I am sure you are aware I continue to use my trademark on my own psychic TV and related products and projects. Your unsanctioned co-option of my trademark damages my past, present, and future works. I intend to continue using my trademark in all media, and it is intolerable and unacceptable for anyone else to capitalize on, profit from, exploit to their own ends, confuse and deceive the public and the marketplace. I consider this a very serious and fraudulent manipulation and exploitation of my trademark, my reputation, and my historical body of work. The Transmedia Foundation is the only official and legal distributor of my archive in the world. I must once more insist that you immediately cease and desist from all and any further use and or exploitation of my trademark. I further demand to receive your assurance on this in writing within 30 days on the date of this letter. I further request that all and any stock that remains with my trademark on it be withdrawn immediately and destroyed, and all adverts and catalogs pursuant to illegal exploitation of my works and trademarks be withdrawn. I demand full figures on the numbers of products sold exploiting my protected trademark by yourselves. I intend to pursue this matter legally. If a mutually agreed settlement is not reached between us in as short a period of time as is possibly practical. I do believe personally that the exploitation of my trademark by yourselves was knowingly intended to confuse the public and to exploit the possibility that I was involved in your project. I therefore also demand a press release apology that states clearly and without malice in its content that you used my legally protected trademark without my prior knowledge or consent, and that you apologize for any financial and or creative distress it has caused Genesis P-Orridge. I've instructed my representatives in England to contact you directly and personally with a view to resolving this matter as soon as possible in any manner they may deem appropriate. I reserve each and all my legal rights in avenue of action re this matter. I have taken legal advice from my attorneys. Yours sincerely, Genesis P-Orridge. Family Fortunes by Desmond Hill. Genesis P-Orridge, 43 years old, androgyne, has shocked his way from the 60s into the 90s with the motto, when in doubt, be extreme. Arch-anarchist primetime prankster, he first gained public notoriety at the infamous prostitution exhibit at London's ICA in 1976, which featured live maggots in a month's cycle of used tampons. He later co-founded Industrial Records, courting further controversy by incorporating a photograph of Auschwitz into the logo in Psychic TV, widely attributed as the pioneers of industrial music. These days his tactics may be less notorious, but he remains a committed advocate of individual empowerment through art, magic, and ritual. He also remains, of course, a committed protagonist and explorer of disorder. His wise old head of long gray hair has aged visibly in the last 9 months. Genesis P-Orridge, agent provocateur of the art world, is now, as chance would have it, an outlaw, exiled in a foreign land thousands of miles from his earliest moments in Lancashire. Don't underestimate the power of play, urges Genesis in his video Exile and Exhilaration. As a 9-year-old child, he'd spent hours laboriously marking out areas, making clearings, and painstakingly building things. And I remember taking great pleasure at the thought that with the first gust of wind or rainstorm, it would be blown away forever. Years later, at Hull University, things were not quite as he had imagined. It wasn't like that when I actually got involved. There were all these little people deciding if they slept with the gallery owner, would they get an exhibition, and trying to impress the professors by giving them blowjobs. I thought, hang on a minute, is it really just about sexual favors and checks and decoration for the people who are already elite and powerful? It really disappointed me and depressed me a lot. I was initially very disenchanted, then very angry. Now I think, well, what the hell? I believe it's a spiritual quest or a path, like being a bodhisattva or a sadhu, that it's exactly the same basic reason of life. So if you have a strong belief in anything, and you're a strong vision, there's no reason that you should starve to death or be destroyed physically, because the world will at least recognize your obsession and your preparedness to stand up for it. So that's what I decided to do when I left school, to live by the dream, because the dream would either be true or I was quite happy if it wasn't true to just starve and die, because I didn't want to be around this world if my conception of what art and communication and life was about was so mistaken. So far, I'm still alive. So I tend to feel that at least part of that utopian vision of everything to do with what we call art was correct. Still alive, but facing a crisis that affects the life and well-being of his family. On 15th February 1992, 23 members of the Obscene Publications Squad, armed with a search warrant and video camera, raided Genesis P-Orridge's Brighton home. They confiscated more than 2 tons of an art archive, including unpublished films by writer William S. Burroughs, experimental films by artist Brian Gysin, films by British director Derek Jarman, which had never been shown, videos of the P-Orridge's family's birthday parties, every single photographic negative that was in the house, and DAT and U-matic film tapes containing studio master recordings for the next Psychic TV album. At this time, the most evil, most satanic, most dissident, most anarchic political beings alive, Genesis P-Orridge and daughters Caress and Janess, were organizing soup kitchens in Nepal for Tibetan exiles and the beggars, street children, lepers, and urchins of Kathmandu. In February 1992, as part of their Dispatches documentary series, Channel 4 screened excerpts from a video of the first hard evidence of satanic child abuse. The video shows the abuse of young adults in what is clearly a ritual context. Sex and blood rituals are taking place beneath a picture of Aleister Crowley. The trappings of black magic are obvious. These claims were backed by the testimony of a cult survivor and by the accounts of medical and police excerpts. Channel 4's senior commissioning editor for news and current affairs, David Lloyd, was also quoted. "I do not think a single television program will clinch the whole question of satanic ritual abuse, but after watching this program, it becomes increasingly difficult for anyone to judge it does not exist." The confession of the key witness was later discovered to be entirely fabricated. By February 13, 1992, The Independent on Sunday had reported that the video, which claimed to be the first hard evidence of satanic child abuse, was made 9 years earlier as performance art and featured film director Derek Jarman as visual presenter. He was quoted as saying, "At first I was horrified and then very, very angry that they had so misrepresented scenes from the video. I did not see the video, but what dispatches showed from it did not in any way show that they claimed it represented. It was not at all about child abuse or murder. It seemed too much when you had a lady on the telly blacked out saying she had killed her child. I mean, doesn't anyone smell a rat?" By Sunday the 1st, March 1992, the Mail on Sunday had traced the elusive Jennifer. She was named as Louise Arrington, mother of 2 healthy children and one-time born-again Christian. In 1990, Louise had stayed at El Grange, a Christian healing center in Lancaster. She was quoted as saying, "There, the charismatics had an overpowering effect on me. In many ways, it was the worst 3 months of my life. They told me I was possessed by demons because of the sins of my mother and father. They prayed over me in tongues and taught me to face my own guilt." One day, she said, the spiritual teacher, lay preacher Peter Horobin, told her one of his prayer team had a vision. He said that he had seen a mind picture of me standing over a tiny baby helping a devil priest to wield a knife. We cut into the baby's chest, and the blood was collected, and we drank it. The baby's body was a sacrifice to Satan. Until that time, Louise Arrington was not aware that she had this child. I screamed and pleaded with them to please stop saying it. I had a sort of fit and had to be held down. I fought people off physically. Finally, I broke down and confused it was true. I said, yes, I did it. I killed my own little daughter and helped others to kill their babies. The confession of the key witness to the Dispatches program was brought about by the horrific visions of born-again Christians. The Mail on Sunday had also traced television presenter Andrew Boyd to the fundamentalist Petersfield Fellowship Church, of which he is a prominent member, coincident to broadcast. Andrew Boyd had just published his latest book, Blasphemous Rumors. The Dispatches program was constructed directly from his research for the book, research which was collated from the anecdotal evidence of fundamentalists at El Grange. By 8th of March 1992, it became apparent that Channel 4 themselves had commissioned the video material for an arts program concerning the power of language of the televised image. But the video, of which only 3 copies were said to exist, was not made by Genesis P-Orridge. On 22nd of March 1992, author, researcher, and presenter Andrew Boyd declined to inform viewers and declined to identify the background of the video. This partial, inconclusive research, combined with entirely fabricated testimonies, has ruined people's lives. In the summer of 1991, Scotland Yard arrested Mr. Sebastian, featured The Crack, 1992, a gay man in his late 50s, a tattooist and body piercer by trade. His studio in Earl's Court, licensed to London Council and by the government, was extensively searched. Scotland Yard took away every photograph taken of people he had tattooed or pierced. He was to be charged on 14 counts of grievous bodily harm against people he had pierced, taken apparently at random from his appointments book. GBH is the charge below manslaughter and carries up to 7 years imprisonment. He was tried at the Old Bailey, usually reserved for spies and mass murderers, without a public jury. Found guilty on 13 counts, he received a 2-year suspended sentence with a large fine and had to meet his own costs. In summing up the ruling judge, Lord Lane set a legal precedent. He said that it was not illegal to have decorative body piercing, but if at any time those piercings played a part in sexual activities or erotic pleasures, then that was unnatural sex, sadomasochistic, and now illegal. A piercing, since it makes a hole in the flesh, injuring the skin, could be constructed as grievous bodily harm. To own a whip, leather thongs, a blindfold or mask, handcuffs, or any other items which might be used in sadomasochistic practice was now an illegal act, complete with retrospective sentencing. Lord Lane then retired, leaving a law by which technically even married heterosexual people with body piercings could be arrested and imprisoned if it was proven that they had ever had an orgasm. For some people, the act of making love had now become illegal. The ruling was appealed against as anti-homosexual and as an outrageous attack on what people chose to do with their own bodies. Liberty, the civil rights campaigning group, said, the decision showed a level of intolerance which is unacceptable in a democratic society. In February 1992, on appeal, Lord Lane, the Lord Chief Justice, rejected that people would not be brought to trial because they had consented to sexual acts in private. He said that individual liberty was not to be confused with license to commit acts society considered as cruel. These statements were recorded as amendments to this new legal precedent. It now became illegal for one partner to give another a love bite, because in leaving a mark, technically this becomes an injury. Mr. Sebastian was the voice on the original films commissioned in 1981 by Channel 4 and shown in 1992 as evidence of satanic ritual abuse, a film purposefully made to illustrate how easily people can be misled by sophisticated editing. It was a consequence of these allegations that Scotland Yard searched the P-Orridge's Brighton home. Their arts archive included experimental films by Brian Geiss and a film by British director Derek Jarman, which had never been shown, videos of Fantasia and the Care Bears, videos of the P-Orridge children's birthday parties, every single photographic negative that was in the house, and DAT and pneumatic film tapes containing studio master recordings for the P-Orridge's next Psychic TV album. For a tense month, they monitored the situation at home with phone calls and faxes. Although they have yet to be charged with anything, Scotland Yard could still allege that someone in the video was subjected to GBH. The P-Orridges, both of whom have pierced genitals, could also be prosecuted for possessing the chain and leather thongs used in the video. Eventually, it became apparent that if the P-Orridges returned to England, Scotland Yard would arrest them, hold them for questioning indefinitely, and take custody of their daughters, who would likely be interrogated for evidence of child abuse. Unwilling to put their children through such an experience in Genesis P-Orridge, the family are now triggered exiles. They have relocated to America, staying briefly with the original countercultural guru and acid propagandist Timothy Leary at his home in Beverly Hills before settling in Northern California 10 months ago. Leary himself, a previous exile hunted by both the American government and the CIA, recognized the implication of the police raid deliberately to crush a sense of life and imagination and possibility. He believes that the archive not only documented but symbolized the entire language and power within digitally recorded media. An archive founded on the premise that the video is one arena in an informative war, and correlated specifically to analyze how images are controlled and used to indoctrinate. On the night of the rioting in Los Angeles, 3,000 fires were lit. Thick columns of smoke rose out of the city. On the television news channels, as the police kept beating Rodney King. An exasperated George Bush kept crying, "If only you could see through my eyes." Genesis P-Orridge was at Timothy Leary's home watching television. I began to notice that all the images were of people with VCRs and televisions. Almost constantly you would see people stealing VCRs, and I realized that it was because they knew that this is where the power is. A videotape is what triggered the riot, and there, the media, that's where the disinformation is being given. That's where the battle is taking place, reflected Genesis. In Britain in 1993, where ownership of one's own skin becomes a question of 7 years imprisonment, where the police seize in its archive, where freedom of association, gathering, and sexual expression are legislated against, then perhaps we can learn from the P-Orridge's story that truth is not something we see on the television screens. We have only to look elsewhere. Re-empower yourselves, repossess your own space. That's all there is to do. And believe me, it causes great mischief in those silent corridors of power. S/he is hers/e. 3/23/03. This is the final war, a jigsaw, a war to repossess yourself. There is no gender anymore, only p-androgyny is divine. Sexuality is a force of nature that cannot be contained. Get up. Stand together in perfect union. Join and love equally the man and the woman, separated at birth inside you. Their first cries for justice, pandrogyny. Reunited as one, identity is your only possession. As a being possessed, repossess yourself. Be possessed by yourself. Any self, every self you ever dreamed of. Every self you were afraid of. Get up. Stop this war of limitations. Stop it. Now you own yourself. You own. Now it's you. Stop being possessed by characters written by others. Change your ID card. Cut it up in the shape of a heart. Be heartfelt. Feel your heart. Your heart is your art. Rebuild yourself from the found up. Identity is theft. Identity is theft. Nothing short of a total gender. These puppeteers of the new way on download slave software into your brain. Even as that wriggling, cocky tyke breaches the cellular defenses, its resources stretch taut, thinner than a condom on a monstrously seductive, destructive cock. Pop, pow, snap, suck. Snake of Eden, rigid with victory. Jism of control, victorious. The arrows of sex penetrate egg central and, spiraling downward, downs its load, the double bluff. Double helix story of those chosen to come before, chosen without choice. Not you, not this and this DNA, this strand dead on arrival, slapped into shape by your deliverers. A pre-recorded software worn down through ages with one purpose: to serve the rich, service their itch, supply each demand, obey each command, change the way to perceive and change all memory. Struck dumb by its elegance, says Crick. Elementary, says Watson. The double helix leaps from lab to life with you as the lab rat. Whose elegance? Whose elegance, anyway? Two spines, once twins, that go their separate ways after 49 days, yet remain inseparably linked. The edit points invisible. And DNA, therein lies the problem, and the lies begin. In the beginning all were perfect. The first man was the first woman. The first woman was the first man, until the whispering began, and DNA, the first man, became the first man, the first woman became the first woman. And DNA, then all hell let loose, and DNA, we've been living there ever sincerely, no matter how sincerely. Possession is the greater part of valor. You are vital, you are vigorous, get up, stop hiding. We are ultragenetic terrorists. One man is another man or woman. Every man and woman is a man and woman. There's a time and a place for everything indecent. Redesign yourself, and your social and sexual misery. Taste the sweet electricity of androgyny. This time around, you can be anybody. Put away your toys and focus. We are but one bitch. We declare war against all binary systems. We support self-determination and liberation. Total freedom for all possible and impossible identities and sexualities. Destroy. Destroy gender. Destroy the control of DNA and the expected. Do you understand? Here's the key. You were in your mother's womb for 49 days in androgyne. Who chose your gender? God, society, family. Only by you ending this separation, returning to the first pure state, can real freedom begin. When all are but one sex, one species, this is not about becoming another. This is about returning to a state of perfect union. Masturbation is the highest form of magic, so tap into the psychic network. There is no free speech, only an illusion of freedom, freedom of delusion. Perhaps God was breathless, allergic to cosmic dust. Perhaps, despite its 3 billion years head start on us at this person building, this character building, one key point is off forgot, and DNA alone on its own does nothing, no thing. It can't make eyes brown or green or brains, or any other electrically charged muscle bulge. It can't sit up or apply makeup or keep itself clean, not even adjust a wig. Proteins do all that. Creativity is your anti-gender protein. Stripped of who you are, stripped of the creativity that is charactered DNA and is hopeless, speechless, dead on arrival again. Without the scene, forget the gene. Society has always been an enemy of the desire to create, of all possible creativity. What am I saying to you? Nature began as a deliberately chaotic force for change, constant change, evolution, evolving, unfolding. All those redundant species wither, those embarrassing novelty leapfrog them to dominance, maybe with a little interspecies cross and loving fertilization along the way. Creativity is the most powerful energy in the universe. Lady J and Genesis P-Orridge, 2003. Dear Genesis, I feel I should inform you of considerable danger you are putting yourself and your family in by getting more and more mixed up in Satanism and putting bad spirits in your music. You are corrupting and misleading more and more young and beautiful people who have done you or any of your friends no harm whatsoever. The glory of God is waiting for you and your wife and children through prayer. You have many concerned friends who are praying for you and are heartbroken at seeing you being misled and misleading so many. Please believe me, I wrote this with the love of Jesus. He loves you and is trying to reach you and save you for his kingdom, the everlasting kingdom, a caring, concerned Christian. The Temple of Psychic Youth. Know this, the frequency of truth. Please be informed, once and for all ways, Genesis P-Orridge, Psychic TV, Temple Press, Transmedia, and any and all former stations and/or access points of the network previously known as TOPY or the Temple of Psychic Youth have absolutely no connection whatsoever with any groups or organizations presenting to represent or claiming to actually be that network now. The Temple of Psychic Youth was voluntarily terminated by its source with extreme prejudice on 3rd of September 1991 in accordance with their original intent. Any person or persons claiming membership of or even more absurdly control over anything they erroneously call TOPY since that date is clearly either a fool or a charlatan. Any claims that they might make are entirely bogus. Do not support them in their delusions. TOPI is all of you and has no membership. It is both spirit and intention. It is also implicitly the key to the next manifestation and action. The Temple of Psychic Youth never have had anything you didn't have already. It was a temporary catalyst, a preparatory demystifier and strategic propagandist, the nursery. The process was the product. However, let it be perfectly clear, the Transmedia Foundation is the only legitimate and complete archive of TOPY and is the only existing contemporary organization officially and legally authorized to make these materials directly available to the public through its network as unique documentation of a seminal, initial, but finite historical period in the ongoing TOPI manifestation. Please be warned, any website or online presence purporting to be TOPY in any way, shape, or form is totally bogus and brutally deceptive. They have no connection with our original TOPY and operate illegally, exploiting our registered copyright and trademarks. The Psychic Videos credits. The moving images of Genesis P-Orridge and the Third Mind of Temple of Psychic Youth. 1. Terminus. Directed by Peter Christopherson and Psychic Television, music by Psychic TV. 2. Moonchild. Directed by Genesis P-Orridge, music by Genesis P-Orridge. 3. An Introduction to the Temple of Psychic Youth. Directed by TOPY and Psychic Television, music by Psychic TV. 4. Psycholection. Images by Callies 37 and 123, Edens 123, 140, and 162. Music by White Stains and Psychic TV. 5. Psychic TV. Directed by Psychic Television, music by Psychic TV. 6. Scared to Live. Directed by Genesis P-Orridge for sordid sentimental music by Genesis P-Orridge. 7. Intermission. Directed by Genesis P-Orridge, music by Genesis P-Orridge. 8. Papal Broken Dance. Directed by Marie Lozier, music by PTV3. 9. Unclean. Directed by Sareth Wine Evans, edited by Genesis P-Orridge, music by Psychic TV. 10. Brandjogeny Manifesto 2005, Prayers for Sacred Hearts and Breaking Sex, P-Orridge. 11. Transformation, Hazel Hill, music by Psychic TV. 12. New York Story, directed by Nicholas Jenkins and Lady J and Genesis P-Orridge, music by PTV3. 13. A Message from the Temple of Psychic Youth, directed by Psychic Television, Genesis P-Orridge, Peter Christopherson, voice Mr. Sebastian Alan Oversby, body Derek Jarman. The Psychic Videos DVD is available separately and directly from Feral House for $23 plus shipping, www.feralhouse.com. Thus concludes the entirety of the Psychic Bible, the Apocryphal Scriptures of Genesis P-Orridge, and the Third Mind of the Temple of Psychic Youth. Editor's note, this is Ryan O'Doud, your pleasant long-time reader. I think it goes without saying, I do not in any way seek any money or endorsement from anything to do with Genesis P-Orridge or the Psychic Bible. I present this information strictly as a way to inform the public of the existence and the nature of this, what I consider to be beautiful thing. So please, if you're going to direct your money anywhere, go directly to the people who own the rights to the Psychic Bible. Don't give it to me. Don't give it to anyone with Commodity Fetish Records. Don't give it to OCI. We in no way associate with the Psychic Bible or the Psychic Cross. All this is a journalistic attempt to show the public that this does exist and the nature of the things that exist here as a fair use policy, because on the basis that this is a religion. So please look further into Genesis P-Orridge and the Psychic Bible and the Temple of Psychic Youth and everything to do with her, and go to their organizations and spend your money there. I've enjoyed going through this wonderful work of occult and hermetic literature with you. Next, we will start Operating Manual for Spaceship Earth by Buckminster Fuller. It will be section 2.1 of Ryan's audiobooks on the Issues Magazine channel. See you then.